During the divorce reality show, the host read aloud comments from viewers. The audience wanted to know if the two of us truly intended to end our marriage. On the giant screen appeared my face alongside Grayson Cole's back, and even under the merciless stretch of the camera lens, his long chiseled face still looked impossibly captivating. The sharp line of his jaw was partly hidden beneath the crisp collar of his white shirt, sending the comment section into a frenzy. My mother leaned over and asked why the screen of my phone was wet. Husband, 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 husband. My husband is just too handsome. Every day I drown in the perfection of Grayson's looks, and it's impossible to understand how anyone could want to divorce a face like that. Some people just do not appreciate what they have. Grayson sat in tailored slacks, his long legs slightly cramped in the tight space, yet he still angled his body to sit farther away from me. Our eyes met briefly, and in both gazes there was nothing but contempt. This man, this bastard, could put on a charming facade, but no one really knew how rotten he was when the cameras weren't rolling. Only a fool would want to stay by his side. We both answered in unison, divorce glancing at each other before turning away. The host looked slightly embarrassed but pressed on. So why did you agree to take part in a divorce reality show? Grayson leaned back casually and said it was because we had been voted by the public as the celebrity couple most people wanted to see break up, and our company arranged it. It was an online poll that swept through social media, and with an overwhelming number of votes, Grayson and I took the #1 spot. Most of those votes came from fans of his couple pairing with Chloe Anderson. Chloe was his junior in the industry, and the two of them often worked together. Just a few months earlier, they had finished a hit fantasy romance series, and their fan-edited videos were everywhere online. Even I, his legal wife, had stumbled upon one of those videos. In one clip from a red carpet event, Chloe gently adjusted his collar, and the way Grayson looked at her was filled with tenderness, as if his love for her was ready to spill over. The video had some melodramatic reincarnation-themed background music, and if I weren't his wife, I might have been moved to tears myself. Thousands of comments underneath begged for them to get married immediately. Right then, our secret marriage was exposed. Fans of that pairing were crushed. They went digging through old footage to find moments between Grayson and me. By that point, our relationship had grown cold to the extreme. We would publicly criticize each other without hesitation. Not long after Grayson sat for an interview. When the reporter asked him what he regretted most in life, he went silent for a long time before saying, probably getting married. That sealed it. Our fans and haters alike voted us to the top of that ridiculous poll. Perhaps to add more drama, the host of the show decided to play a special video. Let's see what your friends have to say about your marriage. The host claimed the video was from friends of both of us, but the person on screen was Chloe Anderson. She wore flawless makeup, her smile bright and warm as she looked directly into the camera. Grayson is an excellent colleague of mine, and someone I deeply admire. I think he's a man who truly cares for others, both in work and in life. I sincerely hope he finds his true happiness. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. They asked her to comment on our marriage, yet all she did was gush about how wonderful Grayson was. If he was so perfect, then clearly all our marital problems must be my fault for making trouble, right? Sure enough, the comments poured in. Chloe is stunning even in close-up. Am I the only one who thinks her words sound fake? They wanted her to talk about the marriage, not to give him a character reference. Stop criticizing her. Someone else said, you only see others through the lens of your own pettiness. Honestly, I still think Harper Lawson isn't a good match for Grayson Cole. Chloe and he are a perfect couple. I hope he divorces Harper and ends up with Chloe. Agreed, another wrote. Grayson doesn't even like Harper and she's not worthy of him. Why keep clinging to him like that? It's disgusting. I kept my face neutral, showing no emotion. The truth was, I hadn't wanted to join the show in the first place. Our marriage was already a messy disaster, and now it was being aired for the entire nation to see. It was humiliating. The company had told us that since we had already decided to divorce, we might as well take advantage of the situation and stir up some publicity before parting ways. $3 million for a single episode was hard to turn down. So I agreed, telling myself I only had to endure this for 3 more months. After that, we could walk away from each other for good. That night, when it was time to sleep, Grayson Cole carried his blanket out of the bedroom. I frowned and asked where he was going, but he didn't even turn his head. Living room, he said flatly. From beginning to end, he didn't bother glancing at me once. I didn't either. We had been sleeping separately for a long time, and in front of the cameras there was no need to pretend anymore. On the couch, his phone lit up over and over. Through the narrow gap in the bedroom door, I caught sight of his face, lit by the screen, a faint smile playing at his lips as his fingers typed quickly. He was probably texting Chloe Anderson. I lay there staring at the ceiling, and without meaning to, old memories began to surface. There was a time when Grayson and I could talk endlessly into the night. We shared everything, laughing and whispering until we fell asleep. Sometimes he would be so tired he could barely keep his eyes open, but he would still hold me close, refusing to let go. Talk to me a little longer, he would plead. His hair would brush against my neck, making me laugh and push him away. It's late, I would remind him. You need to sleep, you have work tomorrow. I didn't know exactly when the silence began to replace those nights. Maybe it was when the person he wanted to share with wasn't me anymore. The next day, the show moved into the heart-to-heart segment. The host asked each couple why they wanted to divorce. I thought for a moment and said simply that life between us had become impossible. The host glanced at the stream of comments, many from fans who adored Grayson. They seemed confused. Why would I leave such a handsome young award-winning actor, as if being good-looking could fill an empty stomach? I shrugged and said that we barely spoke to each other anymore. And when we did, it was only to exchange looks of disgust. What was the point in staying, and you? Mr. Cole, the host asked. Grayson pinched the bridge of his nose, his profile sharp and flawless even with the slight bump in the middle. His distaste for me was obvious. We have nothing in common anymore, he said. I've been filming on location for years and there are too many things we can't talk about. At home there's nothing but silence and endless arguments. He looked impatient, as if the entire conversation was a nuisance. The comments erupted again. Poor Grayson, working so hard, winning awards, and still having to fight with his wife at home. Why marry someone like that? They should divorce so he can be with Chloe. Look at the way he looks at her in their videos. Someone gushed. They belong together. Harper is not worthy of him. I couldn't stop myself from speaking up. That's right, I said bitterly. He's already married, yet he creates a fake romance with another woman. A man like that is impossible to have a serious conversation with. Can you stop being unreasonable, Grayson shot back. We did it to promote a new movie. Not everyone is as filthy-minded as you. The host stepped in before the argument could explode. Do you regret ever being together? He asked. Grayson didn't hesitate. Of course, my biggest regret in life is marrying her. I lowered my head, my nails digging into my palm until the pain went numb. So how did the two of you first get together? The question caught us both off guard. That was so long ago, too long. We started dating when we were 17, I said, and it's been 13 years. Wasn't it you who confessed first? I frowned, remembering it that way. No way, Grayson scoffed. How could I ever like someone like you? You were the one clinging to me. We were about to start bickering again when the host smiled and pulled out a small metal box. No need to argue, the answer is in here. My breath caught. That metal box was the one I had asked my manager to give to the show. Inside were bits and pieces from my years with Grayson Cole. It had been so long that I could barely remember what was in there, just that it held some letters and postcards we had once exchanged. The host pulled out a sheet of yellowed paper, holding it up for the camera to zoom in. This is a love letter Grayson wrote to Harper when they were 17. Let's read it together. Grayson and I exchanged a glance, both of us caught off guard. The corners of the paper were worn, and when it unfolded, the handwriting was young and unpolished. Harper, my parents came to see me today. They told me I'm too young to know what love is. They said my feelings for you were just a passing infatuation, that it wouldn't last. But I know I will always like you forever. We will always be together. Each word had been written with deliberate care, each stroke steady. Memories I had long buried suddenly came rushing back, as if time had split open, pulling me through. I saw Grayson at 17 again. It had been 10 years since I last remembered him that way. Before time had chiseled him into someone unrecognizable. His black hair damp with sweat after a basketball game. His shirt dusty from who knows where. His dark eyes bright and confident. His smile radiant. Harper, he had walked toward me, then eyes sparkling. Did you see my three-pointer just now? Wasn't I cool? I had teased him on purpose. No, I didn't. His smile faltered for a second, then returned in full force. That's fine. Next time your husband will make a shot just for you. Husband, I had pushed him away laughing, and we had walked together down the narrow alley, our shadows melting into one another in the glow of the sunset. Grayson stared at that letter now, completely still as if lost in it. Something complicated flickered in his eyes. The host asked me again the question I hadn't answered earlier. Harper, do you regret being with Grayson? Grayson's hands trembled slightly as he turned to look at me. I lowered my gaze to the letter. After a moment, I said quietly, no, I don't regret it. Back then, we loved each other so much. Teenage love is fierce and certain, never thinking that one day it could sour into this mutual disgust. But why bring those memories back to me? If I hadn't remembered, I wouldn't have felt how pathetic our present had become. We had loved each other once truly, but that love had not survived the slow erosion of time. Grayson's eyes turned distant, his mouth opening as if to speak, then closing again. The comments on the screen began to flood in. I thought Harper had chased Grayson all along. Who knew it was him who had pursued her? First loving her so much at the start, only to lose that love. Young love is like that. I have seen your best and your worst, and there is nothing new anymore. How could that compare to the excitement of someone new? Many blame me, saying Grayson had outgrown me, that Chloe Anderson was the one who truly matched him now. 13 years had passed since those days. We were 17 then. Our love burning recklessly like fire, but now we were nearly 30. That fire had long gone out, leaving only cold ashes that would never reignite. That afternoon, Chloe arrived on set. The guests and crew glanced at me awkwardly as she approached, pulling out a few pristine Japanese bento boxes from her bag. Her voice syrupy sweet. I knew you'd have trouble eating the food here, you're so picky. This is from your favorite restaurant. Eat it while it's hot. Her behavior was so natural, as if she were the one who belonged at his side. Grayson sat next to her, silent, as if deep in thought. When he saw me, his movements froze for a moment. Chloe's lips curved into a small smile. Harper, would you like to join us? Grayson never eats the boxed meals on set. I was worried he wouldn't eat, so I brought something just for him. You don't mind, do you? The wife from another couple couldn't hold back a sarcastic laugh, turning her face away as if she couldn't stomach Chloe Anderson's petty little performance. I smiled calmly. If she wasn't ashamed to flaunt her cheap theatrics in front of everyone, then I had no reason to be bothered. Without another word, I turned and walked away, leaving Chloe's face pale with rage. The other guests tried to hide their smirks. This wasn't the first time Chloe had tried to provoke me, and it certainly wasn't her worst attempt. A year ago, when my mother fell gravely ill, I received the call in the middle of the night and broke down instantly, because I had married Grayson Cole. I had left my hometown, and each trip back took hours by plane. In my panic, I called Grayson over and over, but he never picked up. Finally, I boarded a night flight alone. Outside the window, the sky was an endless black, and my tears didn't stop. 4 hours later, when we landed, my tears had run dry, leaving my eyes sore and empty. My family told me my mother had held on for as long as she could, waiting for me. But I was too late. She didn't leave me any last words. She didn't even get to see me one final time. My father had died years earlier, so it was just me arranging her funeral alone. In the depths of that grief, Chloe sent me a message on WeChat. It was a photo of her with Grayson. She was smiling into the camera, while he leaned toward her, his eyes soft in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in years. Sorry, Harper, she wrote. Grayson couldn't answer your calls last night because he was busy throwing me a birthday party. I heard your mother passed away. I told him to go see you, but he insisted my birthday was more important. She even added a laughing emoji. Don't blame him, it's my fault. If you need someone to blame, blame me. That was the first time I truly understood that when pain reaches a certain depth, tears no longer come. Instead, there is only numbness, as if time itself stops. My eyes no longer saw clearly, my ears no longer heard. My body felt nothing at all. It took what felt like an eternity before the cruel ache inside me began to bloom, spreading through my chest and into every vein. I sank to my knees, clutching my heart. In one night, I had lost the two most important people in my life, my mother, the woman who had walked beside me for 30 years, and the man I loved, Grayson Cole. He didn't arrive until the next evening. For the first time, I didn't argue with him about Chloe. Every other time when it came to her, we would fight until the walls shook. He would watch me cry and scream, letting me throw away every shred of dignity I had left. But this time, I had no words. I quietly handled everything, then boarded a plane back alone. That night, I sent him divorce papers, but the divorce never happened. He had a contract with his company, and if we divorced, it would cause complicated issues with asset division. His manager pleaded with me to wait until he finished his contract, promising they would give me an extra 10% of his assets as compensation. From that day on, the fragile remains of our relationship shattered completely. The flame I had fought to keep alive for years finally died out. The next day, the show brought us to a basement and told us we had to spend the night there. The only food provided was 3 bowls of instant noodles. "We hope the two of you can spend this night together," they said. "Maybe find some old feelings again." I stepped into the narrow, dim room. It was damp and stale, making me dizzy. This was the same basement Grayson and I had once lived in. 7 or 8 years had passed, yet nothing had changed. The exposed pipes still leaked, each drop echoing in the silence. The tiny room had space only for a single bed, no table. A small window sat high above the toilet, but even during the day, no sunlight could reach inside. Grayson and I sat on the bed without a word between us. After a while, he made a packet of instant noodles and frowned. "We only have 3 packs, so we'll have to split each in half for 3 meals," he said. And so after so many years, we found ourselves once again sitting side by side on the bed, our heads nearly touching as we ate from the same bowl. But the reality was nothing like before. Grayson took a single bite before setting his chopsticks down, unable to eat more. The noodles in my mouth had gone tasteless too, and I placed the soggy mess back into the bowl. Neither of us made an effort to finish. I supposed it was to be expected. He was used to the fine meals Chloe Anderson cooked, not a $5 packet of noodles. The room grew heavy with suffocating silence. 2 people who no longer loved each other, trapped together in a small space, can only breed discomfort. I was searching for an excuse to step outside when the small TV flickered to life. Through the static appeared Grayson's face, younger and softer, in a clip the crew had prepared. He held his phone with one hand, the other dropping a boiled egg into a bowl of noodles. At 22, the boyishness had faded just enough to sharpen his charm, yet his eyes still sparkled like they used to. His smile curved like a crescent moon. With pride, he placed the bowl in front of me from back then. "This is Chef Cole's secret recipe. Braised beef noodles with a special boiled egg," I pouted. "Braised beef noodles again, I wanted pork bone noodles." He tapped my forehead lightly. "You should be grateful there's anything to eat at all. I went to 3 different stores today, and none had pork bone. I'll get it tomorrow, but for today you'll have to make do. At least I added an egg for you." I tugged his sleeve, grinning like a child. "Eat with me then." He glanced at the camera, giving a reluctant but smug smile. "What's a man to do when his wife clings like this? Guess I'll have to eat with her." We sat together, shoulders brushing, and finished the bowl. When he drained the broth, he sighed in exaggerated satisfaction. "My cooking is genius." The short clips played on each one, a slice of a life I had nearly forgotten. In another winter wrapped the basement in an icy grip. I shivered under the electric blanket, still unable to get warm. From behind me, Grayson's arms tightened around my waist. "When I win Best Actor, I want you to walk the red carpet with me," I whispered. "Of course," he replied instantly. "I'll thank you first in my speech," he promised. "I'll tell the world that without my wonderful wife, I wouldn't be here." I had laughed then, pushing him away. "Are you crazy?" He laughed too, teasing me for scolding him when he complimented me. My stomach growled, breaking the moment. I rubbed it and sighed. When will we finally live comfortably? He was quiet for a long time before forcing a small smile. "Soon. A friend might get me into a company job, and if not, I'll find work as an extra." His voice was almost fragile when he asked Harper, "After all we've been through, have you ever regretted it?" I hugged him and grinned. "How could I regret it? You make me special braised beef noodles, remember? As long as we're together, I'm happy." He said nothing, just held me tighter. Long after I drifted off, he whispered into my hair, "I won't let you down. I'll give you a better life." When the video ended, neither of us spoke. Those moments had faded from my memory, buried under years of silence and distance. He used to love recording our life, but as he grew busier, the camera stopped rolling. After his career took off, he seemed determined to cut ties with our past, never mentioning it again. In the end, Grayson did win Best Actor. But the woman on his arm wasn't me, it was Chloe. Their photos dominated front pages, searing into my mind. During his speech, he thanked the film crew, his colleagues, and Chloe Anderson, his co-star. My name never passed his lips. The flush drained from his face now as he glanced at me, unable to meet my eyes for long. The man who once vowed never to let me down was the same man who abandoned me completely. "I'm sorry," he said, voice trembling. "Harper, I..." His grip tightened until the veins stood out on his hand, his voice catching in his throat, unable to push out the words. I answered calmly, "You don't have to apologize to me. I believe that when you told me you would never let me down, you meant it with all your heart. And I also believe that when you stopped loving me, that was just as true." The comments on the live stream suddenly multiplied. My God, so Harper Lawson stood by Grayson Cole through all those years of struggle. Now I understand her. If I had stayed with a man through the hardest times only for him to find someone else after success, I'd be even more furious than she is. What a waste of his handsome face. I can't believe he turned out to be such a disappointment. Chloe Anderson is the real villain here. Wasn't she the one who came between them? Some argued it was Harper's choice to be with him when he was broke, so she had no right to complain now. Others said she had benefited from his fame and money, so she shouldn't play the victim. That night, as I prepared to sleep, Chloe called. Normally, Grayson answered her calls immediately, but this time, he simply looked at the phone and hit decline. He sat at the edge of the bed as if wanting to speak, but holding back. "There's only one bed tonight. How do you want to sleep?" I turned toward it. The narrow bed was barely 5 feet wide, the same bed we had squeezed into for 3 years. Back then, even in poverty, our love was enough to keep us warm and our dreams alive. No matter how hard life was, I never thought of it as suffering. But now he was wealthy, celebrated a star at the top of his career. He once said I had been with him through the hardest years. That was true. The only difference was that the bitterness came years later. I rose to my feet. "I'll go outside, you sleep." His hand closed around mine, unexpectedly, his voice carrying a hint of pleading. "Harper, it's been so long since we've slept beside each other. Don't you remember how happy we were here? Isn't this what the show wanted to help us find those feelings again? Please don't go." I slowly pulled my hand away. "Grayson, I haven't forgotten. You have." The words hit him like a punch to the chest. His face drained of color, and he bent forward slightly as if bracing against it. "You're right," he admitted with a bitter smile. "I'm the one who forgot. I got famous, I got rich, and I was in a hurry to throw away the past, where I had nothing. Every time I looked at you, I remembered those years of struggle. It wasn't that I hated you. I hated the version of myself back then. I'm sorry, Harper. You never forgot." "I'm the one who forgot how much I used to love you." I had no answer. By now there was nothing left to say. After a long silence, he stood, his eyes still red. "I'll go out for a bit. You sleep. I won't bother you again." He turned and walked out, closing the door quietly behind him. Much later, I heard the faint sound of muffled sobs drifting from outside, sharp and raw with grief. I stared out the small window at the moon. The moon was the same as yesterday's, but the air in this room had changed, and so had the people in it. The reality show about our divorce became a media sensation. The complicated history between me and Grayson Cole, one of the most sought-after actors in the country, captured the public's attention. Discussions about us filled every platform. Then out of nowhere, a marketing account posted a dramatic claim. According to them, the reason Grayson favored Chloe Anderson was because early in his career, she had introduced him to an invaluable industry contact. That contact had given him a supporting role that earned him the Best New Actor award and launched his career. Out of gratitude, Grayson had always held her in special regard. Previously, Chloe had been relentlessly attacked online as the other woman who ruined a marriage. But now her reputation seemed to shift. Whether it was the work of fake accounts or devoted fans, a flood of comments appeared in her defense. People began to write, "Chloe Anderson is actually a kind person. She doesn't deserve to be called a homewrecker. She did nothing wrong." If it were me, I'd probably like her too, someone who shares the same perspective, who helped me at a critical moment, and who's beautiful on top of that. I can understand why Grayson Cole would be drawn to her. Others argued that yes, Harper Lawson may have endured the basement years with him, but it was Chloe who stayed by his side afterward. Without her, he might never have reached his current success. Chloe appeared frequently in interviews, and when asked if she was seeing someone, she would only give a faint, sad smile. "I once had someone," she said softly. "He helped me so much in both work and life, gave me valuable advice, and I admired him deeply. But by the time we met, he already had someone by his side. We simply met too late." Those words ignited a storm online. Oh my God, that's heartbreaking. To love someone only to find they already belong to someone else. I think the person Grayson truly loved was Chloe, and Harper was only an obligation. If Harper knows he no longer loves her, why not let go? Isn't it selfish to keep holding on, to keep him from being happy? Some comments seemed almost eager to normalize the role of a third party. Has morality become so twisted that beauty alone can erase betrayal? Just then, an employee from Grayson's management company, Cole Entertainment, dropped a post on Waymo that shifted everything. That supporting role everyone claims Chloe got for him, wasn't that from the film Capital City? If I'm not mistaken, Harper Lawson gave him that role. They wrote how Harper, back when she was still acting, had been handpicked by the director for the lead role in Capital City. Harper wanted to bring Grayson into the project, but the investors insisted Cole Entertainment could only have one main role and the rest would go to another studio. So Harper surrendered her lead role in exchange for the supporting role for him. One by one, employees from Cole Entertainment confirmed the story, and even the director publicly acknowledged it. Grayson suddenly burst into the room, eyes blazing. That role, you gave it to me, I nodded. Yes. At the time you were auditioning everywhere and getting rejected. You were discouraged, talking about quitting acting altogether. Meanwhile, I'd begun to land small roles. The day I got the lead in Capital City, I was thrilled. I wanted to run home and tell you, but when I opened the door, I saw you sitting on the balcony silently smoking. Cigarette butts were scattered on the floor. Your stubble was rough and your eyes were empty, the light in them completely gone. Harper, you rasped that night, full of defeat. I got rejected again today. Do you think maybe I'm not meant to be an actor? I didn't sleep at all. The next morning I went to the director and pitched you for the supporting role. I never told you because you were so proud. If you had known it came from me, you would have refused it. Capital City turned out to be a hit, breaking viewership records. The actress who replaced me is now a household name, but I never regretted my decision. Only today did I find out Chloe had taken all the credit. It's absurd, but I no longer care. Why didn't you tell me? Grayson's jaw tightened, his eyes burning with a mix of anger and anguish. What do you think? I replied with a faint, bitter smile. He froze, realizing the truth. I had done it to protect his pride. He trembled, stumbling back a few steps. I had nothing more to say, so I stood and walked out. The tide turned against Chloe almost instantly. She's shameless, stealing someone else's credit, and then their husband. People like her shouldn't be allowed in the industry. Poor Harper, giving up her career for her husband only to have another woman claim her sacrifice. I regret ever supporting that couple. Harper Lawson was a good person. It was Grayson Cole who didn't deserve her. Chloe Anderson called him again and again, and when he didn't pick up, she showed up directly at the filming set. This time, she had lost all her usual confidence, crying and shouting at the entrance. Grayson, please come out. I can explain. It's all just a misunderstanding. Grayson stepped outside, looking at her with a cold, detached gaze, as if she were nothing more than trash. Grayson, listen to me. Chloe rushed forward, trying to hug him, but he quickly stepped aside, leaving her to collapse to her knees, sobbing. I admit I betrayed you, but what we had all these years wasn't fake. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Her pitiful sobs and tear-swollen eyes were met with nothing but ice. In Grayson's eyes, there wasn't a trace of pity. Chloe Anderson, you disgust me. His voice was sharp, cold. Get out. Don't ever show your face in front of me again. If you do, you know exactly what will happen. Chloe stared at him in disbelief, before her gaze shifted to me, filled with a blade-like hatred. It was you, wasn't it? You planned this. You wanted to ruin me, to destroy what we had. You just couldn't stand that he liked me. I stepped closer, looking down at her from above. What did I do? Did I force you to cheat on him? Chloe's lips clamped shut. What relationship between you two did I ruin? I laughed coldly. Tell me, what kind of love exists between a married man and a single woman? She clenched her jaw but said nothing more. I didn't even bother to look at her again. She didn't know that the real show was yet to come. Just a few days later, all of Chloe Anderson's past scandals exploded online. Secret late-night meetings with married directors verbally abusing her staff, diva behavior, and walking off sets. But the worst was yet to come. Her own employees exposed her for tax evasion, totaling over $5 million with undeniable proof. Overnight, her career collapsed. All endorsement contracts were canceled, advertisements pulled, and every show and film she appeared in was shelved indefinitely. She was blacklisted, permanently banned from the industry. Part of it was my doing. I had paid to push things along, but most of it came from her rivals seizing the opportunity. She had earned a fortune over the past few years, but with the massive fines for tax evasion and breach of contract penalties from advertisers and film studios, the amount far exceeded what she could afford. Even selling every asset she owned, it wouldn't be enough. Chloe Anderson was finished. Meanwhile, the divorce reality show was nearing its finale. The last challenge was a survival task that required the couple to work together. Grayson and I had to hike up a mountain and camp overnight at the summit, but as soon as we began our climb, the clear blue sky turned dark with thick, menacing clouds. Thunder rumbled, lightning slashed the sky, and heavy rain poured down in sheets. The mountain path, already difficult, became treacherous with wind and raindrops as big as marbles stinging our skin. A dense fog rolled in, swallowing the trail. We soon realized we had been separated from the film crew. The ground grew slick beneath our feet, and as I tried to climb, my boots slipped. I tumbled hard down the slope. Instinctively, Grayson grabbed me, and as we both fell, he pulled me tightly into his arms. We crashed into a rocky crevice. I landed on him, cushioning my fall, so I wasn't hurt, but his leg bent at an unnatural angle, draining all color from his face. Panic surged through me. "Grayson, are you okay?" Soaked to the bone under the relentless downpour? He still managed a faint smile. "I'm fine, not dead yet." And so we sat there leaning against each other, letting the rain pour down, as if the whole world had narrowed to just this two people, one broken, one guarded, and a storm raging all around. Rain on the mountain came as quickly as it went, and before long it began to fade. The surroundings were a mess, branches torn by the storm soil turned to slippery mud. Grayson Cole leaned back against a tree, his face growing paler by the minute, unable to move. My heart was pounding with panic, but there was no signal on my phone. I couldn't reach the crew, and no matter how loudly I called out, no one answered. I tried to smile faintly, leaning against the tree beside him. "Are we really going to die up here?" I joked bitterly. Grayson let out a quiet laugh. Ever since things had gone wrong between us, I had rarely heard him laugh. His lips curved slightly as he closed his eyes. "At least you're here. If I die, I'll die with you. Liar." I shot back, my voice sharp. "If you want to die, do it yourself. I'm not dying with you." He was silent for a moment, then suddenly said softly, "Harper, I'm happy." The words made me snap. "Are you crazy? Your leg's broken and you're saying you're happy." Cold sweat dotted his forehead from the pain. Yet there was a strange calm in his eyes. "It's been so long since we've been together like this. I'm happy." I ignored him and kept calling for help, my voice echoing through the fog. His ankle was swelling fast, and the daylight was fading. If we didn't get off this mountain soon, we'd freeze before morning. After a while, he spoke again. "Go ahead without me. Go down, find someone, then come back." I gripped his arm. He forced a steady voice. "I'm an award-winning actor. The crew won't just leave me here. Go." The mountain was huge, and searching for one person was like finding a needle in a haystack. There was a visible trail heading down, but if I left and the rain returned, the path might vanish completely. And then I'd never find him again. He had been hurt, saving me. I couldn't abandon him here. After a moment of heavy silence, I clenched my teeth. "Can your other leg still take some weight?" His eyes softened. "You don't have to worry about me. Just go, stop talking, and get on," I ordered. He stared at me for a long moment before letting me pull him onto my back. Though Grayson wasn't overly heavy, he was still a 6'2" man, and the force of his weight nearly knocked me over. Thankfully, my years as an athlete kicked in, and I began inching my way down the slippery slope. We were both soaked through, but his body heat seeped into me. He chuckled quietly, the sound vibrating against my back. "You still can't bring yourself to leave me. That's who you are," he said softly. "Too soft-hearted for your own good." "Yeah," I muttered, my voice dry. Always playing the good person, and now look where it's gotten me. He didn't answer right away, and when he did, his voice was low against my neck. "I know I was wrong. Can you give me another chance? Please?" His tone trembled just enough to betray the plea behind it. "You didn't leave me, Harper. That means you still love me, right?" I opened my mouth to reply, but before I could, voices began calling our names through the fog. A moment later, branches parted and the rescue team appeared, followed by the camera crew. Relief washed over me. My answer caught in my throat and stayed there. Grayson's leg was broken, but not severely. A few weeks of rest would heal it. Days later, filming resumed for the final episode. The theme was reflection. Returning to the first question from the beginning of the show, would the couple still choose divorce? The host turned to him. Mr. Cole, you've been through so much together, yet you've also faced those challenges as a team. Do you regret this marriage? Grayson shook his head. I was foolish before. Sometimes we walk paths that lead us astray, and only when we look back do we see how far we've gone in the wrong direction. I don't regret it. Marrying Harper Lawson was the best decision I ever made. On the big screen, live comments scrolled past. I'm rooting for them to get back together. No, once a cheater, always a cheater. She shouldn't take him back. But he's genuinely sorry. Everyone deserves a second chance. It would be such a waste for them to separate after loving each other so much. The host turned to me. And you, Ms. Lawson? Do you have any regrets? I didn't hesitate. No. When I married him, I truly loved him. There's nothing to regret. Grayson Cole's expression shifted slightly when the host asked the final question. So now do you both still want a divorce? For a man who had once been so determined to end our marriage, Grayson remained silent. After a long pause, he finally spoke. I don't want a divorce. His voice was low, almost hesitant. I know it's selfish of me. I've hurt you, and now I don't want to let go. That's selfish, isn't it? He gave a strained smile, his eyes red. But I truly don't want to divorce you, Harper. Please, give me another chance. I swear I'll never hurt you again. I wanted to laugh, but my chest felt too heavy. How long had I been waiting to hear those words? Too long. Sometimes, even in my dreams, I'd see him telling me he was sorry that he'd never treat me that way again. But every time I woke, all I ever saw was his cold indifference. Did he truly feel nothing for Chloe Anderson? I didn't know. I thought maybe there had been something, if only gratitude or curiosity. But his heart had long since left me. I had once loved him deeply, and later I had hated him with the same intensity. Now standing here, I realized I no longer loved him, nor did I hate him. All that remained was indifference, the kind you feel toward a stranger. Maybe this show had brought him a wave of nostalgia, reminding him that there was a time when he had loved me with everything he had. But for me, it had been nothing more than a painful replay of wounds I had worked so hard to bury. It reminded me just how deeply this man had once hurt me. Going back to him would only mean inviting that pain all over again. My voice was calm but firm. I still want a divorce. A flicker of pain passed through his eyes, and he swayed slightly. His voice broke. Please think about it. I know I was wrong, so wrong it's unforgivable. You can hit me, scream at me, punish me however you want. Grayson Cole, a man who had always valued his pride, now stood in front of the cameras crying openly. Harper. I don't want a divorce. Please give me another chance. I can't live without you. He gripped my hands tightly, desperate. I smiled faintly as I pried his fingers away one by one. Now I'll answer the question you once asked me. He froze, and as realization dawned, his face turned pale. Don't, he shouted suddenly, almost frantic. Don't say it. I don't want to hear it. The crew looked on in stunned silence, but no one dared to step in. I spoke slowly, each word deliberate. Grayson, you once asked me if I still loved you. My answer is no. I don't love you anymore, not even a little. The final episode ended abruptly. As I walked away, Grayson was still collapsed on the ground, sobbing like a child who had just lost his favorite toy. He knew as I did that I would never return. I had loved with all my heart, and no matter the ending, I had no regrets. But once that love was gone, I would cut ties completely, never looking back. After the episode aired, public attention on both of us skyrocketed. Most of the audience sided with me, condemning him harshly, though he still had a loyal fan base that kept him from being completely ruined. Eventually, we finalized the divorce in court. Grayson left everything to me, walking away with nothing. He gave a weary smile. I can't take care of you anymore. This is the only way I can make it up to you. I didn't refuse. 3 months later, I was woken in the middle of the night by a frantic call from a friend. Grayson had just announced his retirement from the entertainment industry. I opened his social media page and saw his latest post. Thank you to those who have loved and supported me all these years. Starting today, I will be taking an indefinite break. You won't see me in the industry anymore. Sometimes people walk too far down the wrong road, lured by the glitter of fame, forgetting why they began in the first place. In his post, he wrote, This show reminded me that when I first chased my dream, I only wanted to spare her from suffering with me. I wanted her to have a happy life. I didn't want this world to hurt her. But in the end, the person who hurt her the most was me. I chose this path because of her. For so many years, she had always been by my side, and I had grown accustomed to ignoring her. Now I realize that without her, I can't keep walking this road. Once again, thank you to everyone who has supported me. I hope you will cherish the one you love and never wait until they are gone to realize their worth. Goodbye. I sat there stunned, unsure of what to feel. My friend's voice came urgently through the phone. He's left the industry, Harper. He gave you everything. How's he going to live now? Her tone softened. I think Grayson truly loves you. Now he really understands his mistakes. You've been together for so many years, it's not easy to find something like that. Why can't you forgive him? I lowered my head. If I forgive him, then who will forgive me? Because our road had been so hard, that was exactly why his choice to let go so easily could never be forgiven. We had endured so many storms together that I once believed we were the exception. In the end, it turned out that suffering together was easy, but sharing happiness was the real challenge. If I forgave him, what would I do with all the lonely nights spent crying quietly into my pillow? How could I erase the pain that had built up inside me? For the rest of my life, every time I faced him, I would think of Chloe Anderson. I would never be able to overcome that barrier in my heart, and I would end up torturing myself forever. My friend fell silent. I hung up, lay down on my bed, and thought I wouldn't be able to sleep. Yet not long after, I drifted off. In my dream, I was 57 years old, sitting on a train speeding down the tracks with Grayson. He rested his chin in his hand and smiled at me. His steady gaze made me uncomfortable, and I snapped at him playfully. "What are you looking at?" He arched a brow, his handsome eyes glinting with mischief. "I'm looking at my wife. You got a problem with that." We laughed together, and suddenly he seemed younger, a boy in his early 20s, holding out a steaming bowl. Beef noodle soup with egg, Harper made special by Chef Grayson himself. We sat across from each other, sharing from the same bowl. He nudged the egg toward me. "Eat it." I bit into it and mumbled with a mouthful, "We should share it." The train kept rolling forward. Time passing as it always does, and he aged again. Now he was in a crisp suit, looking at me with steady eyes as he spoke each vow clearly. "I vow to be your husband. From today we will own everything together, walk every road together. In good times or bad, in wealth or poverty, in sickness or health. We will love and cherish each other until death parts us." Then he knelt and slipped a ring onto my finger as the people around us clapped and cheered. But time passed again. Faces came and went. Those beside us changed. We changed too. We stopped talking. We stopped looking at each other. On the rare occasion our eyes met, they were cold and distant. Eventually, we didn't even sit together anymore. Finally, the train pulled into a station. I picked up my luggage, ready to step off. That's when Grayson suddenly panicked, leapt to his feet, and shouted after me, "Where are you going?" Our eyes locked through the crowd. I smiled faintly. "I'm getting off here. From now on, you'll have to go on alone." He rushed toward me, but the train doors closed between us. We could only look at each other through the glass. His face twisted and fear tears streaming down as he pounded on the window. "Harper, Harper, get back on." "Where are you going? I'll go with you." I only smiled and waved. "Goodbye, Grayson. I can only walk with you this far," I said softly. His cries grew desperate, but the train lurched forward, carrying him away. His figure grew smaller and smaller until the train's roar swallowed him completely. I closed my eyes. A single tear slid down my cheek, falling onto the pillow and leaving a dark mark. On the journey of life, we had once been destined to walk a stretch of the road together, but destiny was thin and love had grown faint. Eventually, the moment of parting came. From here, the road is long, the mountains high, the rivers wide. We each have to walk our own path. Goodbye, Grayson Cole.